Just you just hold up, brother. Just hold up. Um, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, the Truthful, and the Most Just. I greet once again with the greeting words of peace from the Lord of the worlds. May Allah's Salam Alaikum. May Allah's peace be unto you all. Now, I want to check to make sure that we are coming through clear over the internet and at the station. Brother, are we on the air and is everything clear? Brother Raul, are you there? Brother Derek, are you there? Beg your pardon?
Yes, sir.
Okay. There are so many things happening. I would call it a media blitz. And it's all directed at us. There's a concerted effort by those who have been behind the curtain, pulling all of the strings to keep us ignorant and in slavery, in unknowing, in a condition of ignorant to the fact that we are enslaved. I want you to remember something. This is an open forum. It is very important that you remember that. Which means that those whoever I say something about, they have the freedom to defend themselves and manifest that what I'm saying about them is not so. Right? Tonight, I want to share with you the reason that Dr. Bill Cosby is being raped while being accused. I mean, Glenn Beck tried to say something about it, but you know, it is. This is something that whenever you accuse a person of a crime, there always has to be somewhere a motive for that. If you cannot show motive, especially when you have only a circumstantial evidence case, motive becomes very important. I mean, you've seen the even in the movies they show you that when you have someone, how many of y'all saw Out of Time with Denzel Washington? Okay, You remember that someone took out an insurance policy on this woman, took out an insurance policy on herself and made him the beneficiary, and he was a detective, and she got murdered, and they was trying to set him up. At least she was trying to set him up, her and some of the other crooks that was with her, to make it look like he was the murderer. And somehow they was gonna come back later, and once he got the money, they was going to, you know, kill him and keep the money. But anyway, if you go and take out an insurance policy on somebody, and the next thing you know, that person come up dead, and they find out that you just took out an insurance policy on them, they will, you know, the police will consider you a suspect. And generally, they will arrest you on suspicion of what? And tell the prosecutor what they found. And then it will go from there. Because the prosecutor will say your motive was to get that money. Is that right? Okay. Now, so there's many people have come out, many, and most of them were, according to what I've understood, were supermodels. Supermodel. And all of them came out saying the same thing, that Bill Cosby invited them to his place or something, drugged them and raped them. Huh? All right. This was approximately what, 30 years ago. If I have it wrong, see, it's hard for me to sit up and listen to people that I feel are lying. You know, I have to make myself listen. You know, it's just like, you know, being a marriage counselor, I have found that, where's Brother Robert? Tell him to come up here. I have found that, you know, when people think you're not being truthful or whatnot, it's hard for them to let you finish. And, you know, when people, you know, we all, if we're not careful, become bigoted when it comes to people that we think we are being dealt an injustice by, or being lied on about, you know, about anything. We want to cut them off, right? But I have to force myself to get around that, because it's one thing to think that a person is lying. You can believe that a person is lying, but how are you going to make any judgment if you didn't hear him out? Huh? All right. So, you know, as I've told people many times, you know, I've had people come up to me that look like me, and they'll be, you know, talking to me. Some of them say son of man or brother Muhammad, so and so and such and so and so. I need a this or that, because oh, low down white folk, they such and so and such and so and so. And when they say low down white folk, that's supposed to be uh, uh, a get out of jail free card with me, you know, because they think I hate white folks. You know, they don't hardly do that no more. But anyway, this, you know, generally when you deal with someone that you think is a racist, it's an easy way to get into their good graces. It's just tell them that you hate who they hate, right? But I'm glad that I've had a second rearing, you know, that I was raised up by a just-minded man, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I mean, like, I don't mean raised like my daddy and my mother raised me from the time I was a little boy. I mean raised like they mean when they say in Masonics that they were raised from a dead level to a living perpendicular. They mean raised out of ignorance into being a knowledgeable person. Do you understand? Important. As I was looking at the, you know, I've seen the movie The Godfather countless times, you know, and I always, you know, the things, certain things in it just stuck in my mind, where one part he said, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. I just took that to the next level or to its other meanings. There are many meanings in that are locked up in that statement. It says, listen to your friends close, but listen closer to those who are not your friends. Do you understand? A good attorney must pay attention. I mean, you'll see many times an attorney listening to their counter, their own witnesses. And good attorneys, you will see them there fighting things. Every now and then, you'll see him scribble something down on a piece of paper. That's to remind him to go back. He's listening close to that. If you try to talk to him or his client try to talk to him, sometimes you'll see him kind of, he shush him up. Because in order to defend, you got to know what you are defending against. You know, you need to you know, it's like when I'm, you know, I recognize that babies are in the room, so they're not a real distraction to me as long as I know that it's not just steady, you know, because I can tune them out. Do you understand? Because I'm aware that they're there, and so I can tune their noise out, you know. But when I hear something else, you hear me say, who is that? You say, hey, a lot of people say, them babies making all that noise, and he talking about who is that? That's because I don't tune them out. You know, and Allah helps me tune them out because they can't help but make noise sometimes. They don't know. So as I was saying, the lawyer, he has to listen because he has studied the deposition, and he begins, as he hears the testimony on the stand, he begins to thumb through his mind and through his notes sometimes he will think to himself, that's not what they said in the deposition. Let me mark that down. Right? Yes. And pretty soon, it becomes evident that that person that was sitting up on the stand is lying. But if you wasn't paying attention, then you're going to miss an opportunity to be able to prove it. Somebody, I believe they lie. That don't get it. You know, here these people want us by some stretch of the imagination to believe that this man done raped over, what's the number now? 18 or 17? That's what they call them, supermodels. Right? And that means they're very successful. I'm assuming that's what supermodels are, right? People that's models that's not aspiring, but they actually out there, right? And they want us to believe that this and all of them say the same reason that they didn't report it was because he was too powerful. He was a powerful man. Well, if he was powerful 30 years ago, how much more power do he got now? They don't seem to be scared to set up, right? Okay, now let's it's really bothering me. You know what the scripture meant, that whosoever fall on that stone, whoever attacks the Son of Man, they will be crushed. The weight of Allah he's already said that you don't touch me. The white folks know. How many of them tried to interview me to try to disparage me? No, they talked about the people who came and I talked to, but they don't talk about me. But it also says, whosoever that stone shall fall upon, ground to powder. The only way to find out what's inside of stones, of those, when they bring rocks, when they brought them rocks back from the moon, the moon rocks, they wasn't interested in going back up there because they realized that the moon actually is the same material that the earth is. And so they, and they know that the moon is not a sphere too. And they ain't gonna tell you that. But I told you, didn't I? Now, the minute they thought they found something that they could attack me with, how come they ain't said nothing when I said that there ain't no dinosaurs? Never was. Not the kind they've been showing you. How come you think that they haven't said anything when I told you that the moon is a disk with a convex surface on it? How come they don't say that? Only say, we got you now. They ain't saying nothing now. Now, how many of you all have a circle of close friends? I want to show you, when you lying and trying to set people. How many of y'all saw that is a commercial come on? It kind of tickled me because it was a bunch of youngsters. They was young people and they looked like they was in their 20s, 25, 30. And it was a bunch of chainsaws and a murderer. And they was all talking about, let's go. Said, what did they say? Let's go hide. No, I ain't get that part. Anyway, a couple of them suggested something that was just stupid. And this one girl, she said, why don't we get in the running car? And the other one said, are you crazy? And it tickled me. And you know, it's funny how you remember them commercials. And they said, only in horror movies do you look for stupidity like that. Do you understand? When people trying to hold your attention to something that don't make any sense, you can't say things that make sense to hold people's attention to something that don't make any sense. Truth won't help you lie. Only a lie can support a lie. All of them. I was scared of him. That's what it said. I was scared. He was a powerful man. A black man, the president of the United States. Bill Cosby must have been more powerful than the president. Good gracious. First send him out to say Bill Cosby raped some women, accuse him of raping, and makes a joke out of it, right? Then all of these white women get some nerve now, right? All of them supermodels. I want to bring you back to the look, I want to go slow because I want people to who may think that I'm somehow fabricating you know, making up something. When I say something that don't make any sense, that's the time to stop me and show me that it don't make sense what you're saying now. Right? Are we still on there? Are we on YouTube? All right. You know, we was blaming YouTube sometime for what somebody else was doing. Brother, he finally found out that it was somebody sitting up over in Australia, crashing our site. You know, they that scared of what I'm saying? Yeah. Yeah, they just that scared. People who profit from your ignorance. And if you don't think ignorance is profitable for some people, let me show you an example. Look how much money you spend on alcohol and drugs. Alcohol is actually relatively cheap to produce. I mean a half a pint, we measure 3/5 a short dog. And And I mean, we live to get that on the weekend. That's the way we was doing. Just actually drinking up our hard-earned money. Do you honestly think the manufacturers of alcohol want to hear me standing up here talking about stop drinking alcohol? No, you don't want to hear that. Do you honestly think those who making billions of dollars off of drugs want to hear me standing up telling you that you need to see what the drugs are doing to your people and be more of a man than that? Huh? You remember, what was his name? Mr. DeLorean's first name? John DeLorean? Remember they busted him for trying to finance his new venture of the DeLorean automobile? The sale of narcotics? Y'all don't forget? You remember when President Reagan and the Iran-Contra thing came out, that they was getting drug money from the drugs that was being sold to our community to help fund the Contras? Because it was didn't go through Congress. They got a way to fund it. Huh? Oh, you don't forget, huh? I didn't. As long as Allah with me, I don't forget much. Unless he say that don't matter. But he be telling me, remember this, remember that. Tell him about it. And so, is it too hot in here? You know what to do. So, I don't want you going to sleep on me. That's what's wrong with us now. Sleeping when we should be awake. And when we should be asleep, we wide awake. Now that I want you to think of the circles that you run in. You notice most people. I remember when I was in the well, I don't have to go way back there. I can talk about from whether in school or, you know, from time you was in elementary school. You and your little friends that ran together and did everything together. How were you all with your information? Then you pass it around to each other. Well, didn't you? Okay. Whether you was in elementary school or high school, the friends that you ran in circles with, even if you, you know, it's just like when some of the brothers that I used to run with that used to get high. I knew who got high and who didn't. We knew all about each other. And, you know, when they go to pass it to me, I wouldn't have to say, you know, when somebody around that was maybe new to the circle, and they go to pass it to me, the other brothers say, nah, Marv ain't into it, man. And because I wasn't. Now, I drank some pluck with you. Excuse me. I drank some wine with you. And I drank some whiskey. But I wasn't finna You know, I didn't like the way marijuana made me feel. I tried something. I didn't like that. I promised God if I ever come down, you won't have to worry about me doing that no more. I didn't like the way it made me feel. I didn't like, you know, I never did drop any red devils and stuff because I didn't want nothing in me that it could just take control of me. I didn't know how it was going to affect me. And I think that happened, that was reinforced behind one of my brothers who took some purple haze. LSD, ain't nothing but LSD. He never was the same. You know, I remember just as vividly right now. He don't remember. But I remember when I was sitting in the house with him, one of my older brothers' house that he was renting. And Sonny came out of the room and he said, keep moving, keep moving. And I said, what you talking about? And he just kept saying, keep moving. And the more he did that, the more I was in junior high school. I was you know, I realized that something was wrong. And it didn't wear off the next day and that kind of thing. And we wind up having to commit him. My parents did. I said we. I wasn't in the we. But my parents now wind up committing him to Norwalk. And you walk out to Norwalk, man, when you go into that place, you see all of these white people and some black people and all of them walking around out of their mind. And it's a frightening experience. And it's devastating when you see it with your loved ones. And so whatever idea I might have had of maybe one day trying some pills, that did away with that. And so, but anyway, and everybody in the circle that I was in, I just shared that, you know, I mean, you know, you just talk to your people that you in the circle with. You know, my friends knew things about me that my own parents didn't know. But I told you, when a person lies, they can't think up things that if they were telling the truth would have just came natural. All them supermodels, and you notice then one of them says, so-and-so had warned me, because and one of them that had been true about, they'd have told the rest, watch out for that Cosby. He's a scam, right? Did none of them say they had told the other models what happened? Huh? See, that's part of their, you know, you can't make up that kind of thing. They purposely, let me read one of the definitions of rape to you. You know, I like to do things that, excuse me. A minute. Rape. Well, now the first one, you notice, when we were remember what I told you about in school, when they taught you the definitions of words? They never gave you more than one definition. Consequently, you stopped at the, you know, they were actually teaching you to not look deep into the word. Take the first meaning Huh? Now, I'm going to show you here. Well, the first meaning of it is the crime of forcing another person to submit to sex acts, especially sexual intercourse. The act of seizing and carrying off by force. Abduction is rape. Huh? Okay. It says abusive or improper treatment. Violation. Huh? Let's go here and go on down and look into this thing into more depth and see what's being said. Because rape is also the residue of grapes after the juice has been extracted. Did you know that? I didn't either. But you know, I like to know what I'm talking about. I like to know what someone else is talking about. I mean, this last lady said he bought her a ticket to come to his place. She went out to his place on a ticket he bought to get raped. That's rich, ain't it? See it. Rape. Let me see. It says rape. Destroy and strip of its possessions. To destroy completely, to damage, irreparably. What are they trying to do to Dr. Bill Cosby? And you know the sad part is that, I mean, let's think now. Why did the media taking this stuff up and running with it? Why are they doing that? They say, well, we have no motive to do this. Yes, you do. You lying. Anytime a man like, now I'm gonna have to kind of digress a little bit to something else. You remember Grover Norquist stood up and boasted how when people didn't sign if they break you remember they signed the agreement to not raise taxes, and if they break the agreement, he would see to it that they didn't get reelected. And when the man called him on, he said, "Well, I just take it to the voters. It's me crossing the voters, and I just let the voters know that they broke the contract, right?" The voters didn't have them people to sign no contract. Grover Norquist and the people who sent him had them to sign that. You know, a man really know he got it going on when he can tell you and make you believe that something that he doing was your idea. Now that's a pretty smart fella, huh? Well, that's what Grover Norquist and them did. They stood up and told the American people, we don't want we don't need nobody in that office for direction. We know where we want to go. What we need is someone with good dexterity. In other words, they telling them they want a president that's a puppet. And they clapping. It remind me of that movie, Star Wars.
Son-of-man.
Yes.
Yes. Do you believe in fortune readers?
No, brother. I mean, I ain't into that. And the only ones that I believe in as prophets is those whom Allah sent. Now that's that.
Reason why I asked, because a fortune reader had told me something about my mom was supposed to occur.
Well,
And
brother, people ask you questions and all this kind of stuff, and you forget the questions that they ask you. Don't know why. Sometimes you be grieving or whatnot, and you tell them things, and they come back and tell you what you told them, and you be thinking that they read your mind. And don't pay that foolishness, okay? Now listen to what I'm teaching on. I don't know how you got on that when what I'm teaching is something else. That's y'all's problem. You better learn to pay attention. That's why white folks can turn you against people who love you and make you love people that could give less than a tinker's damn about you. Ain't you tired of being stupid? I might have been born a fool, but I'm not gonna die one. That's the one thing everybody on this planet got in common. We was all born a fool. Because when you don't have no knowledge, people can make you believe anything. I ain't seen no baby scientists in them nursery hospital nurseries. Everyone I saw was baby boy or baby girl. I ain't seen baby scientist, baby scholar. Baby, all of them was saying the same thing. Wah! And that's the level we all was born on. And dependent, it's just like seeds. You can have good seeds, but if you put them in the wrong kind of ground, they won't do good. What happens when you born in under the wrong circumstances and are nurtured in the wrong environment? You don't do so good. But it's not because you didn't have the potential. It's because the ground that you was raised up in, the people that were in charge of you, they didn't have much wisdom to share with you. But there's hope, brother. That's the one thing about the human being. You might not have had no choice in where you came from. You may not have had no choice in where you was raised. But if you don't like the result of how you was raised, when you get a certain age, you can choose to leave that and get up in an environment, put yourself, you can transplant yourself into an environment conducive to what you want to be. And you can change. Because one of the reasons we are called beings is because whatever we think, we become. Yes. Yeah, when Star Wars, you remember in the one that I think it was Star Wars, the Attack of the Clones or whatnot. You know, I looked at all of them. And I like cartoons, but I used to look at Mighty Mouse, the Road Runner, all that. But in one place, that Dark Emperor, uh, the emperor, what was his name? Huh? Emperor Palpatine. Well, Senator Palpatine at that time, he was the Dark Emperor. He was the Sith Lord in disguise, right? And he manipulated situations where he wind up being elected the president, and then he said for the sake of the republic, he was going to temporarily declare himself emperor. Do you understand? And the first galactic empire. And when all of this trouble is stopped, he will relinquish his power, he said. And everybody applauded. And they said, well, so this is how freedom ends, with thunderous applause. If the human consciousness, if you can convince people, get their trust, they stop questioning you. That's how con men con you. It's that there's these books. I heard about them. I don't, people give me books and whatnot. I don't pay no attention to that stuff. I'm not interested in listening to a man that have been a criminal, a man who have been a slave maker. Here's a man that told you and me, when we called him on his mistreatment of us, he said, well, your people sold you to me. And as though that means something else. In other words, you should be mad at them. What kind of person thinks that they can buy another human being? I didn't hear you. What you think temporary agencies are, if you want to put it like that? Temporary, they sell labor to people. And the employee may get, say, $15 working on a job that should pay $30 an hour. That other $15 go to that agency that sent you over there. Do you understand? He can stop me if I hear this man tell you that he bought you. He condemning himself. Well, you going around the world trying to call yourself buying people. What kind of, is that a civilized notion, or is that the notion of a beast? He thinks he owns them athletes. Bought and paid for. Right? He almost technically correct. You know why? How many of them do you ever see come out and talk to you and me like brothers and sisters and try to school us out of this perpetual downtrodden condition? How many of them do you ever see come out and do that? I want you to want you to see, you can't go up against the devil. God didn't make him just like Pharaoh. God raised Pharaoh not for somebody else to topple. He said he will get him praise on Pharaoh. The only other man that you didn't hear white folks coming up calling him on the carpet for what he was teaching was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. They went after Malcolm. They went after Minister Farrakhan, just like they told that lie talking about Minister Farrakhan called Judaism a gutter religion. Minister Farrakhan never called Judaism a gutter religion. I did, but he didn't. He simply said that you try to use a good name to shield your gutter religion. He didn't say Judaism is a gutter religion. They said that. Am I lying or telling the truth? See, but when you get emotional, it stops the thinking process. Then people can tell you said something that you didn't say. Because you're so busy trying to defend that you cannot continue your offense. The truth does not back up. The truth goes forward. It's just like light. Light goes in one direction, forward. Forward ever. Backward never. And understanding it's like that. Once you learn something, people can't put you back in the 5th grade and make you stand still for it. What you gonna put me back in the 5th grade for what? No, no way. The 12th grade either. Huh? Once you got it, you don't need to go back there. I got that with me already. So now what you got to add to my storehouse? Right? Okay. Now, you notice you never heard none of it. Ain't gonna do no good to come out and say you told nobody now. Because if they say that they told the rest of the models, if one that got raped, she's claimed, who would be the first one she tell? It would be her manager, and it would also be the rest of them models. Because she was any kind of person, she would have said, hey, look, don't ever go and visit that man. Right? I'm still trying to figure out how you needed to go and catch a flight to go visit somebody. If they wanted to help you, you didn't need to go take no flight off nowhere to go and be alone with them. What was you up to? You know, people always try to make you think that, you know, I mean, you and I are supposed to be stupid. Well, when they get through with you, look at that. You think it's an accident? Look at the kind of movies that come on. Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Just playful. Keep your mind on the level of not having to think. And you know what old saying, if you don't use it, you'll what? You'll lose it. When's the last time you actually had an independent thought? When is the last time you reasoned something on your own instead of off of the news? They sit up there and tell you what to think. And you said, dude, it sounds reasonable to me. You don't even consider the source from whence it's coming. But you say, well, the media ain't got no reason to do nothing to Bill Cosby. The media is the ones that tell you who to vote for president. The media is the ones that everybody who wants to sell goods and services to you, they go through media to convince you to buy it. And you know, how many times have they stood up and told you how much drugs are worth? They got a new drug out called crack. They advertise it. If you didn't know about it, you know now, don't you? And it ain't but $10 off. All right. And what the junkie or the fool looking for a high, and they ain't got a lot of money. What he say? Oh, hey man, did you hear that? What? Hear what? Turn the news on, man. They all repeat it. They keep going over and over. Right? I want to let you. We gonna be here a while tonight. So just I want you to hear something and see something. But before I put that on, I want you to hear something else. And you know, in order to keep a man a willing participant in a slavery system, you got to keep him afraid. You have to keep him afraid. Afraid of what? Afraid of you, and that you would kill him if he tries to do something other than what you want done. The first thing, brother, as men, we got to do is stop being afraid that somebody's gonna kill us if we stand up and be men. You understand? I want you to listen to this interview, and something in it is going to surprise you, because if I don't point it out, you ain't gonna hear it.
T-Dub-O, St. Louis activist and hip-hop artist. T-Dub, good to have you with us tonight. I appreciate your time. I understand that you had an unpleasant experience with police yesterday. Tell us what happened. Thanks for joining us tonight.
No problem. Thank you for having me, Ed. I've had a bad experience with St. Louis police my entire life, but the incident that took place yesterday, we were downtown having lunch at TGI Fridays, a late lunch, about 2 p.m. We weren't even active in protests that were going on in the area. There were maybe 2-3 demonstrations that was going on close to where we were, but we weren't even active. We left out of the TGI Fridays, hopped into my vehicle I was driving, pulled off. As soon as I pulled off, I noticed 3 trucks following us closely behind. We made a left on 4th Street, headed towards 70 West. They stayed close behind us on my tail. I hopped on the highway, put a little speed to it, because I was paranoid at that point in time. I didn't think detectives, with everything that was going on downtown, a highway shut down, a protest at the old courthouse, that they would be following us. But they stayed closely on my tail. I put a little speed to it, merged a couple lanes. They moved how I moved. I hopped off the highway. As soon as I hopped off the highway, I noticed them positioning themselves to get out of the car. Now, I automatically assumed that it was the KKK, because we received several death threats from the KKK that they were going to kill me, kill Bassel Masri, who's a live streamer here, kill Rika Tyler, a young woman on the ground as well. So instantly, I start to prepare to defend ourselves. Once I see them hop out the vehicle and notice that it was the police, I put my hands up, and everybody's followed suit. When they see me put my hands up, they instantly pulled me out the car and asked me for license and registration, put their .40 caliber to my head, told me to head off. I asked what were we being arrested for, what was we stopped for, why were they following us? They told me to stop some questions before people have to have I seen them put the .40 caliber to Rika Tyler's head, a young woman, single mother, college student. They put their gun to her head. At that point in time, I began to be nervous. I didn't want anything to happen to her, so I decided to comply, stop asking questions. They picked me up off of the ground, threw me in the back of a car. No one could never tell me what. I got in the back of the car. The officer whose truck I was sitting in, he told me that he didn't know why they stopped us.
Before I let T-Dub go on, I felt proud of him for him to say that when he saw them put that gun to the sister's head, he felt a little nervous. Don't no man take his woman off the wall with him. You see a situation coming up where, you know, your women and your babies gonna get hurt. You don't, as the old saying go, you got your hand in a lion's mouth, you don't wiggle it. Your women and your babies are your helping hand. You see that in the lion's mouth, you know, that's, as they say, no joy on that. Huh? You know, that's the one thing that you've seen repeat in the history of war. Men put their women and their babies in some safe place. That's why it wouldn't make any sense for us to try to talk about going to no physical warfare against our oppressors in this country. Where would you put your babies and your women? And what he care about killing them ain't nothing. I'm saying this in front of him. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, you put them weapons down. He said, and get behind him. Now I'm telling you, get behind me. And if there's any fighting got to be done, Allah said he will do that. No, you ain't practiced war. You ain't in no position to be. You stand as much chance against the white man in warfare as I would have stood in the ring with Muhammad Ali. Then you couldn't pay me to get in there with him. Do you understand? No. But I'll get in this scripture with anybody. But you stand about that good a chance with me. I know what arena I'm in charge of. Now listen to T-Dub some more.
Our car for the last couple of weeks and for the last 5 days, they've had heavy surveillance on us because we were organizing the events that's on the ground, the peaceful protests.
They had heavy surveillance on them because they were some of the people who were organizing the peaceful protests. In other words, they don't care what their Constitution says about the right of peaceful assembly. When it comes to us, they don't want no peaceful assembly because they need us to stay in the condition that we are in in order to keep jailing us, in order to keep, and they murder us for effect, to frighten us, to keep us afraid. That's why you got to stop following them, brother and sister. You got to stop. You got to stop following their way of life and giving them authority over you. Submit to Allah, and it is incumbent upon Allah to protect you from them as He protects me. He said, I will aid you. I will help you. He said, fear not, for I am thy God. Remember in the Willie Lynch thing, they said, put the fear of God in them. Hey, I was scared of white folks. Allah said, just like Moses. Moses was scared of Pharaoh. Allah told him, He said, you're going to see what I'll do to Pharaoh. Huh? They can't even pray for water out west. They're bad as they need it. Because with the water now come mudslides. Because that was, the foliage and everything was burned up before it rained. Need it and can't ask for it. Now that's a God that you don't want to fight, man. Now, you see, ain't nobody unmute their phone and said nothing. It's an open forum. Okay, now you listen. Listen to, now it's very important that you remember that he was one of those who was helping to organize peaceful protests. What they surveillancing him for? Because if you do everything peacefully, he can't justify murdering you. They won't protest, all right. They won't protest Molotov cocktails and that kind of stuff to justify murder. So they want to get rid of anybody who could organize you. Now listen.
So they told you after you went through this entire ordeal that you had been under surveillance for a few days because they thought that you were somewhat of a ringleader of these protests that were going to take place. So basically they told you that you were targeted. You were targeted and you were followed. And you had a gun put to your head. Okay, I've got to clear the air. I want to clear the air here, T-Dub. Did they have any reason to do this to you in any stretch of the imagination?
None whatsoever. But they have no reason to do it to any black male that's walking down the street. What happened to me yesterday was a perfect example of what happened to Mike Brown.
Okay. Well, you had to be scared as hell, were you?
Not at all. I've been experiencing this.
That is the question that they wanted to ask. Did we scare you? What did the young brother say? Not at all. Ain't nothing more you can do to me but kill me. And if you can't be a man, brother, and you are mature, you over 21, and if you can't act like that, then you already dead. You listen to him.
My entire life. I was scared for the young lady that was with us. I wasn't afraid for myself. It's nothing more they can do to me besides take my life.
Have you told law enforcement that you've had these threats from the KKK?
Of course, they know. Media, local media here has done reports on it. Law enforcement are fully aware. When they pulled Bassel Masri out the back of the car, the Palestinian journalist he had on his bulletproof vest, and they asked me why.
I'll let him finish that.
Had it was someone trying to kill him, and I heard someone whisper the KKK. You know, they were completely disrespectful. Asked me what gang I was in, where were the drugs, am I a big dope dealer rapper? Called the young woman who was with us out of her name, told her to shit.
Yeah. That's what they need you to be, the dope dealer rapper. That's what fills up the jails. That's why Berry Gordy and Motown, the messages that Motown and Berry Gordy and those songwriters was sending out, that we're a winner. Never let anybody say, boy, you can't make it, because a feeble mind is in your way. No more tears do we cry, for we done finally dried our eyes and we moving on up. They don't want that kind of message coming to you. No, put somebody out there to they get rid of Motown and trade it for gangster. I'm so grateful to them brothers, the Temptations, the Four Tops, the Smokey Robinson, and Berry Gordy, especially Berry Gordy Jr. I ain't calling them no saints, but they certainly took the messages that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was sharing with us, and they put it in a palpable sound that made us want to listen. When the messenger first started calling black people black, you notice, you heard the term black Muslims. The white man called us black Muslims. That wasn't what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad called us. He said we are black people, and by nature we are Muslim. But black had such a bad connotation back in the 30s and 40s and 50s and early 60s. Didn't nobody want to be called black. We wanted to be called Negro, because that's what the white man told us we were. And we trusted white folk. That's what the Willie Lynch letter said. They must trust only us. Always remember, that's why Tebow and them, they got black people listening and organizing. We don't want them trusting them. We want them trusting us. So stop him, harass him, and if you can provoke him to do something that justifies killing him, I should excuse to kill him. I didn't say justify. I'll take that back. Give you an excuse to kill him, then kill him. Do you hear any of them saying that I got it wrong? Okay, listen. Now, you in here, you heard him say things that you heard me say for a long time. Huh? Then when James Brown came out with that tune, Say It Loud, finish it. I'm black and I'm proud. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, if God didn't send him, then how did you go from calling yourself what white folks said you were to calling yourself what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told you were? How did you go from Negro to black? I have eyes just like you. So move over side, because I'm coming through. And no matter how hard you try, you can't stop me now. That's called Message from a Black Man. The Temptations came out with that when I was in Vietnam. And all of you see this, white folks now and start hitting each other with the fist. That's what we used to do when I was over in Nam. Or we'd be giving each other power salutes. I mean, we could go through it too, man. I mean, hit the knee and you hit each other's elbow, and we was into it. And you know, I mean, that's and wasn't no black people hardly in the late 60s. The crime was at its lowest in the black community because everybody was soul brother. Ask any of your parents or grandparents, am I lying? And all of that was connected to the Nation of Islam and Motown. That's right. So they don't want no one teaching you the ways of peace. It's all right to talk about peace, just don't learn about it in a meaningful way and start practicing it. Otherwise, the police becomes unjustified. You look up the word police and you discover that it don't mean somebody who's there to help you. It means somebody who's there to control you. That's why when we were standing around on the corner, sometimes we just be standing around singing. Hey, two white officers drive up. All right, move along. Move along for what? We don't want you standing around peacefully assembling together for nothing. You might what? You might start loving each other. And once you start loving your brothers and sisters, it won't be so easy for people to come and kill you and get away with it. I mean, you ain't gonna tell me move along, and you got my Muslim brother over here thinking you finna jack him up or whatever, and you ain't gonna tell me I can't stand there and have his back. That ain't finna happen. Now, I can watch, and if you ain't planning on doing nothing, you ain't got no business. Why are you worrying about me standing there watching? But you just want to murder us. Allah will fix them. All of them who think like that, Allah will fix them. I promise you. Now, I'm working my way to Dr. Cosby. But you see what happened to him? For just trying to organize a peaceful demonstration, huh? All right. Let's see what Ed has to say about it.
shut the F up before they kill her because they have a gun to her head. Of course, she's being arrested. They were completely out of control and disrespectful. These are what they tell her? Disrespectful. Asked me what gang I was in, where were the drugs, am I a big dope dealer rapper? Called the young woman who was with us out of her name, told her to shut the F up before they kill her because they have a gun to her head. Of course, she's being arrested. They were completely out of control and disrespectful. These aren't the people that should be patrolling and protecting our communities.
See, you keep quoting them. You think protect and serve means protecting you. But they are put there to keep you in line and protect those who do business in your community and take all your money out of there. They there to protect and serve them. You hear me? You come on, join with me and let's get ourselves up out of this condition. Allah is with me. You don't have to be afraid to join with me. Don't get mad. Get smart. You understand? Now, let's go to the reason that they are targeting Dr. Cosby. Back in March of 2012, Dr. Cosby came on for me to interview him on this, at that time we called it a community meeting with Detroit. That I had started interviewing some of the black stars. Dr. Cosby was the first one that consented to an interview. He wasn't on Larry King but about 35 or 40 minutes. He stayed in there with me. Even when he said he couldn't be there but an hour, he stayed about an hour and a half, talking with me like a brother. Listen to the conversation. And remember what you just saw there with Ed Schultz, I think that's his name, and Tebow. Excuse me. And now look at this and listen to this.
To say that we are very blessed today to have a man with us that is willing to, as the scripture says, that greater love hath no man than this, that he laid down his life for his friend. Now, I've never met this man personally, but as a youngster growing up during the 60s, when I was in my teens, I can't say how much it meant to see this man in a role that was traditionally, I mean, television played a big part in media. You're coming through clear, son, man. You're breaking up. Okay, well, we'll do the best we can. To see a black man in a role that I saw Sean Connery from 007 and all of them, but to see a black man in a serious role like that during the 60s for young black men, as I know it did a lot for me. And I pretend that I know Dr. Cosby personally, but I know that all of my life, you know, it was people like, you know, just seeing black men that were dignified, and I know that he had some say-so over what he would allow himself to be portrayed as, and he did not come out in front of us and represent himself in an undignified way. And that meant a lot, and it still means a lot. And I'm not going to, he does not need a whole lot of introduction. I know that everyone that's in America, I'm pretty sure, has heard of or knows of Bill Cosby. And we are honored and just happy to have him on the other end of this line. Dr. Cosby, the microphone is yours.
Good afternoon, and thank you. When I entered this world of entertainment, I was coming from Temple University my junior year, and I like to tell people that I was born again. Not of any particular religion, but I stopped taking on responsibility at age 5 and just went along doing things according to my natural intelligence, but not absorbing nor caring too. I was not an angry young boy. I was just, as my 6th grade teacher said, William has a quiet way of not listening. Now, all of the psychological problems that existed later on in life, as I talked with my friend, the psychiatrist Alvin Poussin, a great deal of it had to do with what my father had taken on in his life as a responsibility. And I remember my father saying very clearly, I don't want responsibility. And he said it, of course, while drinking alcohol with some friends of his. And I was a boy, and I really didn't understand what that meant or how it mixed with the fact that he and my mother had these arguments. Now, my mother was 4'11", my father's 5'11". My mother must have weighed around 114 pounds, and my father was 230. So my mother lost 3 battles, 3 fights. And these things I saw, and I was too small to be able to do anything except just scream and yell. And then I remember taking my mother out. She never went down, but I took her out to the backyard. We were living in the Richard Allen projects. Took her out to the backyard because we had the apartment on the 1st floor. And I laid her down, and she was exhausted. I don't remember her breathing, but I just remember her just being tired from the beating. I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew something about, artificial respiration. Little boy.
Yes, sir.
And I remember people leaning around the fence looking at us, and I didn't care. I just wanted to take care of her. And I remember hearing people say, what a shame, this is a terrible thing, so forth and so on. And it never really registered with me that his behavior, the arguments about where is the money, and his something. I remember my mother is saying something about your father gets robbed on the way from work. Because he was supposed to come home with a check. Instead, he came home loaded and smelling with alcohol. And of course, they got to a point where, as a young man, 16, so young boy, old boy, or whatever he was, the time came when I looked at him because she kept letting him back in the house, which is key.
Yes, sir.
I was firstborn, and she kept saying to me, "You're the man of the house now." And in those days, I knew I had to get a job. I knew I had to work, and I was very proud to bring her $2, $3 from Shining Shoes downtown Philadelphia. I had a shoe box and the polish and stuff. Come back with $2 or something. The shine was only 15 cents in those days, but I was very proud to give it to her. And I'm saying all that because the young and females.
I need to chime in on that for a moment because he is approximately 13 years older than me. And when I was a youngster, 5 and 6 years old, even up 10 years old, you could get a quart of milk for about 21 cents. You could take literally $2 to the store and come home with a bag of groceries. So don't laugh when you hear him say he brought his mother $2 from Shining Shoes. So listen, it's going to become clear to you why they after him now.
Have been given notice by people who are community minded that drugs and the selling of drugs is not a business that we want to get into, because it is in fact that which has been put directly in the neighborhoods to diminish the potential of our intelligence. And when I hear young...
Now, if they was mad at that, what's that young brother name? T what? T Doug. If they're mad at him for just organizing a march, how you think they feeling about Dr. Cosby for getting into the real, as we used to say, nitty gritty about what's really plaguing the black community? He ain't supposed to do that. That's an unwritten rule, an unspoken rule, that we make you rich and you go along with the program. Huh? Now, how you think they felt when he was on there talking with me like he was talking? Oh, they didn't say nothing. Don't worry, I'm gonna show you what they thought about it. But first I want you to see that even when you think he not watching, he watching. And even if he don't say nothing then, he got plans on what he will do later. You understand? I mean, the mere fact, like I told you, that them models, when it happened to one, and they run, if it really had happened to one, the rest of them would have already knew about it. Just a moment. I want you to, and I'm gonna tell you something else. Everybody, before it's over with, I want you to. We're gonna do this. Everybody who pull out on tickets, Dr. Cosby said he was going to refund their ticket money if they didn't want to come and see him. Black brothers and sisters and white people who are also our brothers and sisters in faith and in right, let's repurchase those tickets and let's go and fill those seats. Okay? And I don't know what they talking about, trying to do some investigation in California. Even by their own laws, this stuff is outdated. Prescription done ran 3 times prescription. But when it come to us, the law don't mean nothing to it. And then want to stand up there and lie to you as though white women are scared of Bill Cosby. If he had molested any of them in the way they saying, he'd have been in jail faster than you could say, go to jail. And they would have been glad to do it. But you just wait. I want you to hear. See, you finding out now why they out to get him.
Men and women say, well, if I wasn't selling it, somebody else would. I have to speak up. And I have to say, you're not thinking clearly. What you're saying to me is, I want money. And I don't care what this drug does. And in part, maybe you're right. But the addiction is such a strong thing. And if you are a person who monolithically thinking happens to be tough and black, then I want you to think about the people and how these drugs have ruined so many lives, taken so many women off the track, taken so many men off the track, whether it's the drug itself and the addiction or the selling and then murdering each other over that which I think is not enough money to take a life. Or take a life and then take your life out in prison. I look at the power of the black Muslim, and I know that in Baltimore, for a friend of mine, they have a neighborhood, and they have signs that speak, my neighborhood, my responsibility. Our children, our responsibility. There are paradigms in the areas, and these paradigms have to be followed in order for us to succeed. What's in the way? Many, many things. I think we have to be careful of the food, and I think the growing of our own food. I think that making sure when we buy our meats, chickens, etc., that these things you read the small print of what's in it, I think that our children should be valued with more from within the home, and that you have to parent means to teach. And it may feel like a strain, but it has to happen. I'm talking specifically about the people who are having problems. I'm not talking about people who are managing their lives and they're in business or they're getting on with life. I'm talking about the people who are confused, people who think that the checks coming from the government, the places they're living in, that they can handle one family member to another, et cetera, that this is progress, but it isn't. Our minds are too sharp. We are too great to allow ourselves to think that if we underperform, we will be given things. It's amazing. And what was fought for, and now you look at what we fought to get: black mayor, black politicians, black superintendents of schools, black teachers, and things are failing. So how are you going to point someplace? The pointing needs to be done when we all get together. Those of us, not just the middle income people, because that's a myth. The people, all the middle class black people, they're not doing it. Look, every time you see a program go up, and lower economic people go to a program, those people are middle income people. They're being paid. They're there to help. School teachers are middle income people. So they want to help. They're there to do. And by the way, a very wise man, a black policeman said to me, discussing what can we do? And he said, Mr. Cosby, he said, programs have a sunset. And the children have to go home. Muslims have rules. The children. You go to their neighborhood and these children can play in the street. They can skip rope on the sidewalk. There is no worry, because the men and the women get together and they make sure education is first, and that the behavior is first.
Is it becoming clear to you why they're attacking Dr. Cosby? Not only is he speaking that which would really cause black people's mental condition to change, he's even giving laudatory, respectful comments about Muslims. This government went way overseas to avoid presenting Muslims as we really are. They went and got these people that they been in bed with secretly and showed you a misrepresentation of what Islam is. Because if you had paid attention, when people were paying attention to the Muslims in America, Muhammad Ali, when he go to the fight, Ali, and they wasn't mad because he was a Muslim. They respected him. The Supreme Court respected him for being a Muslim. Didn't they? Can't have that. We got to change how the people look at Muslims. So they went and got some people who didn't introduce Islam to America. We introduced Islam to America. then why are you trying to judge us by that yardstick over there? You know better. You doing it on purpose. You want to misrepresent what we are. He knows we're not terrorists. Had you ever heard this government accuse the Nation of Islam of being terrorists? No. They said we taught hate. And after a while, they couldn't even say that no more. Huh? Now here, Dr. Cosby met and had a nice interview with me. And you notice I wasn't cutting him off every few minutes trying to be seen and heard. I wanted to hear him. And I wanted you to hear him. Listen.
The family is first. There's no vile language, no disrespect, even of people who are not of their culture. And so why the people who are having trouble can't copy the paradigm that is working? You don't have to put anything on your body. You have to put things in your mind. And when I hear the criticism, well, you know, he's putting out dirty laundry, all that means to me is you haven't faced up to how horrifying it is that a young black male is on the sidewalk, what used to be, with his brain splattered by another young black male. And the anger and the disrespect and the loss of value by them is because the sun set and they went home and there was no parenting. Thank you.
I agree. Dr. Cosby, before I go to asking you any questions, I just wanted to, I had always wanted to say thank you to some of those who, now that I have a little age on me and something to compare what I'm seeing now and what I saw when I was a youngster, I just wanted to let you know that, I really appreciate you having scruples and morals in your career to even, I've heard people even make jokes about you tried to tell them to stop cursing and swearing and going on in their jokes and whatnot, and they, Eddie and I should say Mr. Murphy and Mr. Pryor, everyone knows them. And, but, just like what you said about alluded to about the drugs, how some of those, my brother, one of my brothers lost his mind. And stuff first came out. And, he was the one I was closest to that he was, I used to really look up to him. He was about 3 years older than me. And that was devastating to me to see my brother lose his mind and wind up in Norwalk, and he just never came back to himself.
Yeah.
And people say to him, somebody is.
Right.
And, I really understand what you're saying there. And it takes character. We must build enough character in ourselves to not allow ourselves to be more concerned with money than caring about our condition and our people and their condition. And you have exemplified that even in your, anybody can laugh because you stand there cursing and swearing. I mean, that it sounds funny to people, but to be able to get a laugh, as the old saying goes, you know, I call you Dr. Cosby. That's not an honorary title. That's a degree you earn in the school system. And there's an old saying that a wise man can act a fool, but a fool can't act a wise man. And you know, you make that so. I've seen this as I was growing up. I've never met you personally, but you had a hand in shaping my thinking, and I think on a right path. And I said all that to say I'm glad that I lived to and meet you and say to you, thank you, brother.
When I was at Temple University, I scored, I think I was.
Notice how modest he is. He wanted to get away from that. You know, I understood what he was doing. It was kind of, you know, I don't like people giving me too much that either. But, you know, it made me feel good to meet someone who I grew up admiring. I remember when I was a teenager, man, I didn't miss I Spy. You know, when I was, Bill Cosby, he always just a decent man. Now they heard this interview. You think they didn't hear it? They couldn't go after him right then because you would have known. Now, everything that I said he was, they claim that he wasn't. Right? Now, let me see here. This is 2014, December. They started that in what, September? Saying these things about him. That's 2 years and approximately from March to September is what? April, May, June, July, August, September. 2 years, 2.5 years later. But and a lot of people say, well, what? The media, it ain't they doing. These people just coming out. Yes, it is. The media's doing. They don't want you and me. Let me read the. Look, it's very important, and I want to thank the Caucasian people who gave us this William Lynch speech. They kept. I told you, all of them ain't got no dog in the hunt. You understand? It's just as many, there's a lot of them that's sick of this. It was a lot of white people taking part in the Underground Railroad. Huh? Now, listen to this. Now, this is what the William Lynch letter said about us and white people and who we should trust. It says, I have outlined a number of differences. I'm at the third paragraph on the first page. I have outlined a number of differences among the slaves, and I take these differences and make more of them than they really are. I make them bigger. I use fear, distrust, and envy for control purposes. These methods have worked on my modest plantation in the West Indies, and it will work throughout the South. Take this simple little list of differences and think about them. On the top of my list is age, but it is only there because it starts with the letter A. The second is color or shade. There is intelligence, size, sex, size of plantations, status on the plantation, attitude of owners, whether the slave lives in the valley or on the hill. He's showing them take all these little differences and make them like they are a really big deal. In other words, create class distinctions among them. Do you understand? And it says, whether they are from the east or the west, north or south, whether they have fine hair or coarse hair, or is tall or short. Now that you have a list of differences, I shall give you an outline of action. Now, but before that, I shall assure you that distrust is trust. And envy is stronger than adulation, respect, or admiration. Do you know why distrust is stronger than trust? Because it's the nature of a mind that is ignorant to distrust those that they are ignorant of. That's the very nature. People see a stranger and they automatically, who is that? What does he want? Until they get to know you, right? So distrust is a stronger thing than trust, because in order to trust, you have to first gain knowledge of, right? So when you don't know somebody, people can tell you anything about them, right? And most people, they believe the one who got to them first, right? Okay. And it says, and envy is stronger than adulation or respect or admiration. What? A person who is poor and has nothing, when they see someone with plenty, rather than admire and respect, the first thing come up is, I wish I had that. Envy, right? Okay. And it says, the black slave, after receiving this indoctrination, shall carry on and will become self-refueling and self-generating for hundreds of years, and maybe even thousands. You know, once you get him in the habit of these things, of disliking one another, distrusting one another, you won't have to keep on trying to do it. He'll do it to himself after that. It will become a habit. You understand? Then he says, don't forget, you must pitch the old black male versus the young black male, and the young black male against the old black male. Now, what are they doing? Sowing discord among brethren. That's the thing that the Lord say he hate. He that soweth discord among brethren. Huh? But that's what that is the very basis for one of the most important things for the slavery system, is that the people that's enslaved must not love one another. You can't let them learn to love one another. You understand? Bill Cosby talking about now, I mean, he's in his ears. You heard what he had to say to me in just that little clip. The whole thing is online. If you want to go pull it up, you can pull it up. Just go to the Son of Man interviews Bill Cosby, and it'll bring it up. Now listen. It says you must used the dark-skinned slaves versus the light-skinned slaves. I remember when we was in school, you know, I remember being called you old black spouser. To this day, I don't know what a spouser is. But it really bothered me. And they used to call light-skinned brothers yellow. You yellow, you know, no matter what, the black skin, the dark one, hated the light one, and the light one hated the dark one. Just like this says here. I remember that. Growing up in school, I remember that. It's just like the fools who call the Bible a lie. How in the world you gonna call the Bible a lie, and the Bible prophesied that we'd be slaves for 400 years and we here? How would I call this letter a lie when I lived it? No, you ain't gonna call this no lie. This is the game that's been ran on us. And Dr. Cosby is in trouble for one reason. It's because he dared to see and care about us. And so now everything that I said he was, you notice they're accusing him of being immoral now. Right? When all his life he has shown to be a person of good moral character, right? Not just in what we saw, but what we didn't see. We never saw him stoop to some of the levels that they made others stoop to. Right? Never cursing and swearing. Here he's there telling us about drugs and don't be using them, and that what the baneful effects of drugs are. But now they're accusing him of drugging people. Huh? The very ones who used to, whenever they wanted to see a black man get killed, they just say, tell him he raped you. You still gonna let that game be ran on us? Is that what is that the extent of your intelligence? Well, the white man said this. He said, you must use the female versus the male, and the male versus the female. What you saw on television. Even in that, you did not see Claire Huxtable mouthing off at Dr. Huxtable. If they disagreed about something, people should. But it wasn't none of this big mouth Claire and big mouth, Cliff. He never let that image be put out there of him and the black woman, right? Both of them had dignified. She was a lawyer, wasn't she? And he was a doctor, huh? Unlike Wheezy and George, huh? Well, y'all don't know nothing about Amos and Annie. But, do you know of another, other than Julia, do you know of another black man that was starred in so many roles and it was always dignified other than Bill Cosby? And because he now using his image, his credibility to now go and talk to black people about our condition and what we can do to change it. Now they smear campaign. They didn't like it when he accepted the invitation to come on there and talk to me. But they waited. Huh? Okay. Listen to this. It says, you must also have all your white servants and overseers distrust all blacks. What you see on the news media now? All of them. Well, not all. Show you, a little bit on that. That they let this one model come on there and talk, and she talked herself right up into you seeing just what was really in her heart. When she went off, she was putting up both fingers. The bird, flipping the bird. You ever known a dignified woman to pull that? That's street people's way. Huh? Okay, but listen. It says, but it is necessary that it says your white servants and overseers, it's important that they distrust all blacks. They have even gotten us away from referring to ourselves as black people. We're just blacks. And they even got white people calling themselves whites. Whites and blacks. You got to remove people lest you remember that that's a person you're talking about. That's a human being you're talking about. You understand? It's time to wake up. And it says, but it is necessary that your slaves trust and depend on us. They must love, respect, and trust only us. How many of y'all done let just because white people come on there and say all these things about Dr. Cosby or any other thing they talk about, and you just take it and run with it? It's because you trust everything white folks say, even knowing that these are the same people who enslaved you and me. Told us we was Negroes. If we was really Negroes, why he calling us black people now? Why he calling us African Americans now? I mean, he can't beat you, so he join you and then pretend that, okay, whatever. But he started off telling you were something that you are not. He represented you and me as when he'd be talking to people, he said, well, what about our Negroes? He still thinks he owns you. He tell me I can't whip my baby. At least he tried to, didn't he? What did he tell that football player? That football player trying to explain himself to them, talking about, I'm sorry. You go to hell. I ain't sorry for whipping mine. If anything, she's sorry I had to whip her. And you ain't heard her, she's sitting right there. But you ain't heard her disturb my meeting no more. I love mine. And I know you who hate me for disciplining mine, I know you hate me and you hate my children. You notice they ain't saying a word. It's just like some of them used to come in there and leave cursing and swearing under some of our videos. And I invite them to come in and discuss with me whatever it is that they find offensive or untrue. And I told brother, I say, you warn them that we're not going to let you use our videos for graffiti. Now, if you feel that you are justified to leave these disparaging comments, then you should feel justified to come in here and tell me why. And if you're too cowardly to come in here and have a civilized conversation with me about it, we will remove your disparaging comments. Because I don't want people coming to our videos reading profanity. I don't use it, and I'm not going to let you use it on our sites. Now, you can do what you please, but not in my house. You want to set up your videos and do what you want to do on that, that's you. Nothing I can do about that. And I'm not going to worry about that with your nasty self. It says, gentlemen, these kits are keys to control. You want to maintain control over us. These kits to control. Use them. Have your wives and children use them. Never miss an opportunity. They trying the opportunity now to slander Dr. Cosby. Using lies, pitching us against him. Huh? It says, if used intensely for 1 year, the slaves themselves will remain perpetually distrustful of one another. Then he says, thank you, gentlemen. Now turn to the last page. Controlled language. Crossbreeding completed. For further several original beginning, we must completely annihilate the mother tongue of both the new nigger, mule, and institute a new language that involves the new life's work of both. You know, language is a particular institution. It leads to the heart of a people. The more a foreigner knows about the language of another country, the more he is able to move through all levels of that society. Therefore, if the foreigner is an enemy of another country, to the extent that he knows the body of the language, to that extent is the country vulnerable to attack or invasion of a foreign culture. For example, you take a slave. If you teach him all about your language, he will know all your secrets. Well, you notice I told you about the police. When you go look up the word police and get past the first and start going down the list, you start to find out the truth. Huh? And so, for example, you take a slave, if you teach him all about your language, he will know all your secrets, and he is then no more a slave. For you can't fool him any longer. And being a fool is one of the basic ingredients of and incidents to the maintenance of the slavery system. Huh? And it says, for example, If you told a slave that he must perform in getting out our crops, and he knows the language well, he would know that our crops didn't mean our crops. You know, the slave master, you say, well, John, come on, it's time to get our crops in. John said, yes, sir, boss. We finna go get our crops in. But the slave didn't know our crops didn't mean our crops. It meant their crops. Do you understand? Okay. And it says, and the slavery system would break down. It's just like our country. You know this ain't your country. The white man, if it was your country, he wouldn't have to re-sign the voting right bill every 25 years. Well, he ain't trying to make he ain't gonna make no lie out of God's word. Your seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, Abraham. Huh? He ain't never treated you like he would treat those who came here and went through the process of becoming a citizen, huh? He treated you and me like property. To treat you and me like his property. And if Allah wasn't with me, my life wouldn't have been worth a nickel. I'd have been dead. Listen. So you have to be careful. It says, and the slavery system would break down, for he would relate on the basis of what our crops really meant. So you have to be careful in setting up the new language for the slave. Setting up the new language. For the slave would soon be in your house, talking to you as man to man. And that is a death blow to our economic system. In addition, you remember when you saw on T-Dog there, when the T-Dub, when he was asking the officer, well, why are you stopping me? He told him to shut up. Why? Because you talking to me man to man. You can't talk to me like that. Right? I said, am I right? Is this jumping off the page? It's real, ain't it? And it says, and so in addition, the definition of words or terms are only a minute part of the process. Excuse me. Excuse me. Values are created and transported by communication through the body of interconnected value systems. All these values in the society have bridges of language to connect them for orderly working in the society. Except for these language bridges, these many value systems would clash and cause internal strife or civil war. The degree of the conflict being determined by the magnitude of issues or relative opposing strength in whatever form. For example, if you put a slave in a hog pen and train him to live there and incorporate him to value it, what do you think the projects and the places that we grew up in and what that was really about? You go to walk down the street and you didn't live over there. little gang of fellows would come and ask you, what you doing here? He protecting his little hog pen. Huh? He values his ghetto. He's been trained to do that. Because as long as he stay in there, he very seldom see the police come in there and bother him. They just ride through and wave at him and smile at him. So he feels safe there. That's teaching him to value his little ghetto. Understand? And it says, for example, if you put a slave in a hog pen and train him to live there and incorporate him to value it as a way of life completely, the biggest problem you would have out, he would worry you about provision to keep the hog pen clean or partially clean, or he might not worry you at all. On the other hand, if you put this same slave in the hog pen and make a slip and incorporate something in his language whereby he comes to value a house more than he does a hog pen, you got a problem. He will soon be in your house. Do you understand? They taught us to brag about poverty, which made it acceptable to us. They taught us to brag about eating garbage. Give me some chitlins and some hog maws and some hog head cheese, and man, I'm in hog heaven. That's soul food. Grits and greens. You ever looked at a plate of grits when you let it sit and get cold? You ever checked it out? What happened to it? What was Dr. Cosby reminding us of? We should grow our own food. He was saying what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad had been telling us for years. He showed that he had been listening to Muslims. Huh? And like any intelligent person, before making a judgment about a thing, you learn something about that thing. Huh? And he had made an observation that Muslims, they protect their families. They teach you to be decent. In the Nation of Islam, we teach our children to be decent human beings. You don't see our children running around making fun of their brothers and sisters. We laugh with each other, not at each other. We don't make one another the butt of our jokes. Some who came out of the world try to do that, and they get corrected when they come in here. You tell them, no, brother, we don't make jokes about each other like that. We don't do that. No, sister, we don't do that. The Son of Man teaches us against that. And if they follow me, they thank you for the correction. Backbiting each other and becoming cliques inside of them. We ain't got no cliques in here. We're all Muslims. And so they angry with Dr. Cosby, but they couldn't say nothing. Back when he did this interview with me, let me show you what they was really up to. Here it is right here. I'll show it to you. Listen to this, and this will show you what they was up to.
About universal green-blooded and human.
Bridge to Admiral Kirk. Admiral, sensors indicate a vessel in our area, closing fast.
What do they make of her?
coronavirus, Edward. It's Reliant.
Just give it a minute.
My Mac is great.
Just a moment. I'm going to reboot. Let's try it again.
Try the emergency channels. Picture Mr. Sadek.
Slow to one half equals 5. Let's be friends. Slowing to one half equals 5. Reliant in our section. This was and slow.
Sir, may I quote General Order 12 on the approach of any vessel when communications have not been established?
Lieutenant, the Admiral is well aware of the regulations.
Is it possible the comm system is failed?
It would explain a great many things. They're requesting communication set. Let them eat static. They're still running with shields down. Of course, we are one big happy fleet. Ah, Kirk, my old friend. Do you know the Klingon proverb that tells us revenge is a dish that is best served cold?
Oh, Cosby, my old friend. Do you know the old proverb that revenge is a dish that's best served cold? You know what that means? It means when someone crosses you, don't go after them then. Let some time pass and let them forget about it. Then get retaliatory vengeance on them. That's what revenge is actually mean. Retaliatory vengeance. See, they upset because Dr. Cosby is condemning the drugs that they put in our community, which means he condemning them. He condemning all of the things that they worked so hard to, keep us ignorant. He's talking about, using the Muslim to educate your children. Huh? And they didn't like that. They don't like it now. So now they're going to rape him in front of us, in front of the world, and going to program you to go along with it. Because, we trust nobody but white people, You supposed to say, I know he wasn't no good. How many more black superstars do you know of that ever came out and talked to you and me like they was a big brother to us? About drugs and how we should feel about selling them and using them to our people, and getting on us about how we treat each other. But they tried to make, you remember when he was telling us about paying so much money for how somebody that don't make $200 a week, a little over $300 a week, you can't afford to buy your children tennis shoes that cost $100. That's mismanaging of your money. That will keep you in poverty. They don't want him talking to us. So they scandalize him. they slander his name. Let me let you see something here. You know, you saw, they understand revenge. They put it in the movie, didn't they? Captain Kirk gonna be surprised when he see Khan neck. Huh? You think Dr. Cosby ain't surprised that the people that he sat down and drank coffee with and thought were his friends and thought that they really had some kind of respect for us and that kind of thing? You think he's not surprised that they would do and lie like they doing? Man, that I'm gonna tell you something, that take the wind out of you when you think people is your friend and then discover that it was all a game. Wa alaikum salam.
Have you heard the statement that the last book they're going to use on the black man is the white woman?
Yeah, the messenger said that. That's the last trick he will do, is offer you his woman. They tried to offer Bill Cosby their woman, and the woman told on him. Yeah, I read it to you. Let me see here. I don't know what I did with this head here. It's gonna be in this month's magazine, but if I can find it, give me a minute here. I know I got it around here somewhere. But my son didn't get a hold to it. He was, y'all excuse me. I don't know what happened to my, yes, we are. I read it to you all. When I was interviewing Kenya, that young brother by the name of Kenya, and I'll have to find it. Right now, I can't find it. I may need another copy of it, Brother Jamal. But anyway, that is let me pull this back just a little.
Happy Blitz. Ah, Kirk. Old friend, do you know the Klingon proverb that tells us revenge is a dish that is best served cold? It is very cold in space. This is damn peculiar. Yellow alert.
Energize defense fields.
I'm getting a voice message. They say their chamber spoil is overloading their comm system.
Spock, scanning. Fuel emissions are normal. They still haven't raised their shields. Raise ours. Their shields are going up. Lock phasers on target. Locking phasers on target. They're locking phasers. Raise shields. Fire!
Sure, get those shields up. Trying, sir.
can't get power, sir.
Mr. Stop on the street.
Just hanging on, son. Bring energizers out. Try auxiliary power.
Damage report.
They knew exactly where to hit us. Who made us? And why? One thing is certain. We cannot escape from auxiliary power.
Visual. Zulu, divert all power to phasers.
Too late.
Hang on. Johnny! What the? Quick! Shut the battery, sir. I can have auxiliary power in a few minutes. We'll have a few minutes. Can you give me phaser power? A few shots, sir.
Not enough against their shields.
What the hell are they?
Admiral, the commander of the Reliant is signaling. He wishes to discuss terms of our surrender.
What did the lady lawyer say? Dr. Cosby needs to deposit $100 million into a special account to be paid to all of those who he has injured. And this can go away. Well, ain't that something? You know, it's so many things that, you know, I know he's finding out now just how deep the hatred of many of those who are in positions of power, how deep their hatred of us really is. See, they call themselves making a privileged class out of our black entertainers and whatnot. But the privileged class was supposed to understand that they can't speak up for you and me. They are not to go back and try to help the others. You understand? And he made the mistake of trying to come back to help us. And so now they attack him and decide that they're going to show him with the power of the media that they control the minds of his people. But it ain't like you think, devil. I remember the messenger said this about the white man, those who the shoe fit, the devil. They said, came up to him and said, "Isn't it true, Elijah, that your people will not believe unless we white people tell them that it's okay?" He said, "Yes, it has been that way, but it won't always be that way." Huh? You notice the white man telling you it's okay to believe me. Well, ain't he? How's he telling you? He shut his mouth.